Perfect. Okay, so we'll talk today. I'll talk a little bit about who I am and my background, and then we'll talk about what parents expect of their children and their teens, and either as a group discussion or if there's more joining us, we'll go into breakout rooms and talk about where we want our kids and teens to succeed. We'll talk a little bit about what's realistic when we're managing and raising teens, and then talk about a few action steps at the end for that. And if you have questions, you can either raise your hand or you can type it in the chat, but there will be a time at the end for questions as well for us. Okay, so I'm just going to go through a quick overview of myself. And some of you already know me from different places or different settings. So from an academic side, I've taught in different high schools and university students since 1998. I have my master's in teaching English, but also then in training ESL teachers. And I've helped newcomers and international students settle into life in Winnipeg for many, many years. For some of you, you're familiar with English exams. So I've taught TOEFL and IELTS since 2007. And over the last 15 years, our family has had 25 or 30 homestay students live with us from 7 or 8 different countries. So most of what I'm doing, and as I interact, it's with newcomers or international students in Canada, or when I was teaching overseas. So I have a passion to help teens and adults learn their English, but also teach strategies to help with them mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and financially. So to gain knowledge in those areas as they're learning in English. And usually I've been teaching children or teenagers 16 and older once they've arrived in Canada, or young adults who are 18, 20, 22. But I want to focus more as well with parents and with teens while they're still in high school from that. Okay. So there is a little bit more to me, though, than just the academic side. So over the past number of years, I also had a business importing things from Indonesia. I've started several small businesses, and I've invested in real estate and renovated houses here in Winnipeg, Canada. And I've taught newcomers and Canadians money management skills and how to get out of debt with that. Okay, so here's a picture of my family. This is from a couple of years ago. Can anyone take a guess where they think this picture was taken?
Is it in Indonesia?
No, although that's a good guess because we did live in Indonesia for a couple of years. Any other guesses? Okay. So this particular picture, and I deliberately wanted the Canada Frisbee with us because we're actually at the Great Wall of China. And so that was next to one of the structures where you can walk and then walk along the wall at the top. And so I had brought a Canadian Frisbee so that we could say that we had thrown a Frisbee on the Great Wall as we were walking with the other tourists. So my son, as you can see here, is quite young, but this picture was back in 2015. And he's, we sometimes think, what areas do we want our kids to be successful in? So I was thinking of what he's done over the last years. So in athletics, he was in gymnastics when he was younger, and then baseball and parkour when he was older. Parkour is like jumping and running through parks or through a different obstacle course. In music, he was in choir and band, and then also musical theater. He likes, or used to like anyways, Minecraft. I don't know that he's playing as much these days because he's busy. But academically, which is where most of us as parents focus on, he did very well in high school. His overall average was 95%. So he's done well in these areas. So, but also in addition to that, he's all friendly and interactive with people around him. And one of my goals for him was to take him to 10 countries by the time he was 10 years old, but I failed in that goal. However, I was able to take him to 9 countries by the time he was 10. And when he turned 18, he said he wanted to travel for a gap year and to go around to different places. So I said, well, do something that's with a purpose. So over the last year, he was in Europe, but he was going to different countries. And in some of the countries, he was helping with refugee supplies that were then shipped or taken to Ukraine. This was in Romania. He was also in Germany, Switzerland, Austria, and Norway. And so he was traveling, but it was with a purpose. He spent 2 or 3 weeks in each country and had a chance to help out or get to know the culture and the people in those countries. And then from January till June, he's joined a musical theater group, and they were stationed in Hawaii for 3 months for training. They had classes in the morning and practices in the afternoon. And then they went to England for 5 weeks. And right now they're in South Korea. I chatted with them briefly this morning. They're there for 5 weeks. And then after that, he'll come back to Canada. And then he'll be planning to enter university or college next fall. So when I look at him as as part of our family, he's somebody I would consider successful in different areas from that. So I want us to just chat or think about this for a few minutes, and this is where we can have some question and answer times. What do you want for your children or your teens? And how will you help them achieve those things? Okay. So maybe if you don't have teens, you have younger kids, or you have nieces or nephews who are teens, feel free to use or think about them instead of your own teen. But, Mohammed, do you want to, because I know you quite well from the last few years, do you want to just tell us about your children or teens, and then what's something or things that you would want them to accomplish or do?
Yeah. First, I want to introduce myself. My name is Mohammed. I'm originally from Lebanon. I live in Dubai for 14 years. I came to Canada in 2016. I used to have shoe business here in Canada, but now I am working with Winnipeg School Division. I'm married and I have 5 kids. 3 of them are teenager. Yeah, they are triplets, 2
Yes.
boys and 1 girl. Yeah. Of course, my goal at our culture, like in Lebanon and Middle East.
Yeah.
If you ask the parents what would you like your son or daughter, they told you doctor or lawyer, something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm yeah, I like my children to be in this like to be a doctor or a lawyer, or I try my best to like they are now 14 years old.
Yeah.
They are in grade 9, and I try to much I can give them more activities like soccer, hockey, basketball, football. Yeah, and they are same at the Matthew. They are good in academic. They are now 90s.
Good.
The score for in education. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I like. Yeah, I like for me. I don't have brother. I don't have like. I like to have big family, and as a kid, this is my investment now. I look for them to see them in the best like place.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Okay, good. Does anyone else want to share if you have teens or younger kids about what do you want for your kids and how will you help them achieve those things?
Good morning,
Nice.
everyone. My name is Susie. I am from Peru. I think what matters is mental well-being,
Okay.
and they feel good.
Okay.
So that they choose freely but responsible
Good.
in their decision, no, in their life.
Okay. Okay. So you want to help them make good decisions and have a good mental health.
Yes.
That okay. And how are you helping them on that journey? How are you helping them become mentally well and responsible with making good choices?
Bring to health when they have any doubt, for example. Well, else? Being be example how or like parents.
Good. Yep. Okay. Good. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else want to share? So I like some of the things that I heard. I mean, you want your children to do well with academics and, to be successful, to be in a position that's people respect, like doctor, lawyer, etc. But we also want them to be mentally healthy, and we work through by being a good example and with that. So I think all of those are good thoughts and good things to work with. So and I went through and thought in my mind of, and also looked online of different advice and ideas. And I thought, really, there's so many different areas to think about with our kids. So academics, sports, music and arts, relationships, personal finance, this was mentioned, being emotionally stable, being self-aware. We want them to have good social skills. As they become adults, they'll need to be able to do household chores. Maybe for some of us, we want them to have good IT skills or be able to understand electronics or auto repair, driving skills, etc. I have more because we want them to have cultural and religious awareness, understanding the rules and laws, and know what they are interested in with jobs or careers, and then how to make good decisions. We want to make sure that they take care of themselves with their their bodies and stuff, and be able to communicate. So there's lots of different things that we're thinking about, and Susie, I think what you mentioned with being an example or modeling that, those are areas that are helpful in showing them the way. And sometimes we say, well, I want them to be successful, and we push them in every different area of the things that we've talked about. And so what I encourage parents and myself is just to focus or think about a couple of areas, out of this list, which are the main ones that you're interested in focusing on or pursuing to start with, in order to help them be successful with that. So I have a couple of questions here as well. Can we have success without failure? What do you think of that question?
I don't think so. Like, we maybe yes, maybe not, but I feel like even if we have failed our goal, it's good to learn from that.
Right.
We be more stronger to success our goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyone else? Do you think we can have success without failure? Okay. I had a little picture, and I didn't put it in here, but I'll add it later. But it shows a straight line, and it shows start and then success. And it says we usually think that success is a straight line going up. But then it has a second picture, and it says, but this is how success usually is. And then it shows a line that's twisting and turning and going around and around until it reaches the goal. And so I agree, Mohammed, with what you said. As we're moving towards success, there's setbacks, there's different activities, there's different things that are preventing us sometimes from reaching or being successful. But there's the journey of us moving forward with that. And as we're examples for our kids, one question I want us to think about and then talk about some action steps is, it's not just helping our kids and being a model, but I don't think that any one of us can help our kids be successful by ourselves. We need the support of teachers. We need the supports of extended family. We need the supports of others in the lives of our teens and children to help them be successful with that. So with that idea or thought, I encourage you to think about, and these are action steps over this week, but think about some strengths and weaknesses of the people that are around your teen. What are areas? Maybe you have an uncle who's good in business. Maybe you have a cousin or a sister or brother who's good explaining about technology or IT or other things. And be deliberate in thinking about how you will have your son or daughter be around those people and be learning from those individuals and people that are stronger or weaker in those areas. And then, I gave a list of probably 16 or 18 different ideas, but of areas to think about. But I would encourage you to pick some areas and then think, how will you help your teen in those areas during this next week? My experience with teaching teens in the classroom and have, usually as they come to Canada and then they study English before they enter university, what I've seen is many times parents prepare their kids for the academic side of life, but there's still the life skills. Usually they're living in homestay, so interacting with people, doing the daily chores, maybe some cooking, washing dishes, cleaning up their room, cleaning up other areas of the house, laundry, washing and drying their clothes. So there's different things that can be taught and should be taught as our kids are teens getting ready to launch into the world. And then money management is another area that usually they try and fail, but there could have been more teaching of money and how to manage your money or identify what's money coming in and then how you will spend it and make choices for them to be more successful as they move from 15 and 16 and 17 into 18 and 20 and 22 years old with that. And also over the next week, I encourage you, who's influencing your teens now? And this is something that I'll talk about in next week's webinar, but I think social media and people around us, there's a lot of influence in our teens' lives, and it's not always positive. But to think about, like, what are they watching and seeing, and who the people they're around, how is that influencing them positively or negatively? I know for my son, he had a group of 8 or 10 kids that they were together in junior high and high school. So usually in classes and then in the evenings or weekends, they would be online, sometimes playing games, sometimes talking about school, sometimes studying together. But he was with that core group of students for 5 or 6 years. And that was a positive influence. Sometimes our teens get in with some other kids who are not a positive influence. But a second question, not just who's influencing, but who inspires your teen? who are people in their lives that actually encourage them to reach their potential or to move further in life, or say, I want to be like that person in 5 years or 10 years, 20 years. I think those two, they're similar, but there's some differences between influencing our teens and inspiring our teens to go on and do more things. I do have a link which I'm going to share in the chat. And so if you go to that link, there's a sign up with your name and email. And if you want to add a WhatsApp number or a WeChat number, because I will have a replay of this that I will put in there. And then I also will be sending out different tips and ideas of raising successful teens as we go week by week into the future. Okay. So at this point, I just want to pause for a minute. I just want to see, are there any questions that you have in the those of us that are watching here today about parental expectations, success, or about your teens? So there may be questions, but maybe you prefer to ask them to me one-on-one. So again, you can go to the forum and sign up to receive a replay of this webinar, or you can also go or send me an email at canadianenglishmentor@gmail.com and ask me privately. That's not a problem. Again, the form, the link for the form is in the chat for that. There's a saying that we have, it takes a village to raise a teen or to raise a child. And there's, I want to chat and just talk for 2 or 3 minutes, because I've worked with teens, as I mentioned, all of my career, international students and newcomers to Canada. And I want to pass on different information and knowledge of what I've learned to your teens. And so for this, I've created a 6 to 12 month, depending on how fast they go through it, but a teen mentor program. So there's several teachers and teens that I have, teachers and mentors that I've gathered together, and a community. And in this program, there would be weekly classes where they would be learning different ideas and different information or skills. I'm just going to share in to jump to a different screen to show you some of this information. So in the first group of classes, then the focus is on the teen and then people around them and then the world. So it starts with them individually and then expands beyond that. And in that, we'll talk about their personality, likes and dislikes, how they interact with people, learning about different cultures, about different people around them, teachers, etc. And then towards the end of those classes, we'll also talk about the world, big tech companies, social media, difficulties, problems, what's happening and how do they make changes where they're at. Then after that, there's a module about health and wealth, I've called it, but it's to help your teen understand more about themselves, taking care of their health, getting enough sleep, physical health, how to deal with anger, what to do when they're anxious, what to do if there's problems on social media or there's bullying, how to have more confidence, and then several sections and classes on money management skills. And then the third part of this is helping with their job and career planning. So what kinds of careers are they suited for based on their personality? What are the different options they have? Because our world has changed so much. There's many different areas and jobs that were not around when we were younger or when we were looking at our careers. Part of it will also help them with their resumes and job interviews, In Canada, it's important to be volunteering, so we'll talk about that and where they can find opportunities to volunteer and get ready for their first job. And then there would be a portion also about scholarships and being able to access those when they're getting ready for college or university. Other modules that I'll be adding and including in this once they've gone through those core ones are about if they're interested in entrepreneurship, helping them start a business, whether it's in the process of it, or a second part of that would be starting an online business. I'll also have courses in negotiating sales, in public speaking, cross-cultural communication, and interacting with others with that. And I'm just going to give you guys a sneak preview of some of the areas. So in the first module about themselves and about others, there would be talking about getting to know each other who's in the group. Then the next week, they talk about who they are and what's their personality like, how they learn in school and how to be more better in their academics, how they behave with others and how to deal with anxiety, self-confidence, etc. Week 5 would talk about their family relationships, their birth order, and how that affects how they see the world and how they feel responsible for others. Week 6 is about teachers and others. Week 7 is how to resolve problems they have with other people. Okay, and like I said, then moving into world issues, cultural values, religious values, how people around us think, and then social media and technology. Okay, so that gives you a little bit of a glimpse of areas that I'll be helping. The other thing that's unique with this program is with many programs and many English classes or just classes in general for teens, the focus is on the class, but I also will have mentors where they'll meet with a trusted adult once a week to be sharing and talking with that person, and that person will be like a guide or a mentor to them. And so during the whole program, they'll have interaction with other classmates and teachers, but they'll also be meeting one-on-one with a mentor to help them with different topics and issues and information from that. So that's one thing that I'll be continuing and expanding and reaching out to help teens and their parents in these areas. So we went through this a little bit quicker. I don't have a lot of other new information. I do want to highlight that in part 2, then we're going to be talking, and I'll have a 30 to 45 minute session on next week, June 3rd, at the same time about what's happening in our world, because we can see from the news and media, there's lots of different changes and the world's very different from when it was when we were younger. You know, if you look at different groups in Canada and the US, there's a move towards individual rights being more valuable than group rights. There's different groups with Republicans and Democrats and conservatives and liberals, and the thoughts and processes and ideas of what's happening. And then I don't like this, but it's kind of funny, but things that we would think, oh, this is how we treat people, here's how we relate to other people, that's lacking in a lot of areas I see in today's society. So how do we help our teens process and deal with situations that aren't fair or that are not healthy or respectful? We'll talk a little bit about some of the trends and changes in social media. This cell phone has changed our whole lives because you can have a whole business now just in your hand. But you can also access a lot of things online that are not healthy. And, you know, there's dependence, there's bullying, there's other problems with social media that are leading to increased social mental illness. We'll talk a little bit about the technology side because, as I mentioned, this is all changing. So the jobs for our teens, like some parents say to their teens, oh, why don't you get a job at, you know, Walmart or 7-Eleven or McDonald's? And teens are like, well, no, I can go on Kijiji. I can go on Facebook Marketplace. I can go buy some products. I can sell them and I make more money. And it's that there's a different mindset. And I think we need to acknowledge it and then decide how we will manage that. And then as we move to a more global economy, even on this call, we have people from 4 or 5 different countries that have come to settle in Canada and bring our culture and traditions and look at how we work together in that. Okay, so I don't have anything else as we wrap up, but are there any other questions or thoughts or comments even that you want to make as we end off this session?
It's really good. I feel it's very helpful for me, especially with my kids. It's a lot of information, and I'm so happy to be joining you. And so this is what we need to know about. Like for me, I still see my kids; they are still like kids, but the other way, they are not kids.
Yes.
Yeah, they are teenagers.
Yeah.
So it's good to know, have more information, because you had this information, like this experience with your son.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mohammed. Appreciate you joining today. Any other comments or questions? Yeah, Susie.
Yes, definitely is the amount. It's interesting the issue. Is the amount is more information. No, I have a question. The class is in person, online?
So if we get a group together in Winnipeg, then it can be in person. I need 5 students. I'll have in the groups, it would be between 5 and 10 per group, but I can have multiple classes. But I'm also offering it to people if it's in other countries. So there would be the option, or if there are people, teens from different countries joining, then those groups would be on Zoom.
Okay, you are right.
Yeah, so we'll see. Like if there's several organizations here and they say, okay, we have a group of 6 or 8 teens, we want to start and we want it just in person, I can manage that, and we can look at where to meet and how to do that. But if we have a larger group from multiple different areas, or it's hard to agree on a set time or a place to meet, then we will have different classes on Zoom with that. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions or comments? Well, and one thing I was going to do at the start, which is why I left my camera on in this area, but this section is where I have books about teens and parenting. So I have this row within that. And then down here, I have books on business and real estate and money management. And then this is also around business. And then across the room, and you'll be able to see a little bit of our house, but there I have more books. There's a whole row on just managing money. There's a whole row on famous people, their biographies. There's a whole row on business and sales. And then I don't think, it's going to be kind of hard to see, but there's a bookcase that's on this side. And those are all, like, there's 4 rows of books that are my son's books. So over the years, we've tried to provide an environment where he can be reading and being around. And I'm learning, because there's lots that I don't know. So these types of things, whether it's online or physical books, that we can learn more information and more knowledge. And then I can share that with others like yourselves. So thank you guys for joining today. Again, if you want to go to the link that's in the chat and click on, I'm not sure. Yeah, you should be able to click on it. Oh, maybe not. But I can also, what I'll do is also put in my email, because if you're not able to click on the form, oh yeah, there is a link there with the form, so you should be able to click. But if, in case you're not, let me give you my email as well. And then you can send me an email and I can add you to that list. Let's just see if this works. Yeah, so Canadian English Mentor at gmail.com. And like I said, this focus would be more for teenagers. I do have different programs and help for newcomer adults, which is separate. So it's why it's a general Canadian English Mentor. But then within that, I have teen programs and I have information and advice for helping newcomer adults as well. So I'll stay on for another couple of minutes, but thank you guys for joining and participating today, and feel free to share this information with your friends and others in multiple countries. And then next week on Saturday, then we'll have another session for about 40 or 45 minutes, and we'll go from there. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Trevor, for your time.
Okay, thanks, Mohammed.
Thank you so much. Have a
Thank
good
you, Susie.
weekend.
Okay, yeah, have a good weekend.